Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. I've been a city bus driver for 11 years. Long enough to know which streets flood after a storm, which stops smell like last night's leftovers, and which regulars will try to slip in without paying. I know this route like the back of my hand, Route 13, the one that snakes through the industrial district, weaves around the edge of the old cemetery, and cuts straight through the heart of downtown. It was always quiet at night. Too quiet sometimes. But nothing could have prepared me for what rolled in at sundown yesterday. The shift started like any other. I clocked in at 5:45 p.m., grabbed my thermos, and climbed into the driver's seat of bus 917. She's an older model, bit of a rattle in the brakes, but dependable. The kind of dependable you count on when you're alone on the road at night. I nodded to Dave at dispatch, got the green light, and pulled out of the depot with an empty bus and a hot cup of coffee. The first hour? Normal. Picked up a construction crew near the rail yard. Dropped off a woman with a stroller outside the clinic. Usual characters. But around 7 p.m., the radio started acting up. Just static at first. Then voices. Garbled. Like someone whispering through a fan. I adjusted the dial, thinking it was just interference. I even tapped the console like it was the 90s again. But the voice didn't clear up. It wasn't dispatch, it wasn't a station. It wasn't anything I'd heard before. Stay off the main road, it said. Or maybe that's just what I thought it said. The words were broken, but clear enough to plant a chill down my spine. I turned the volume down and kept driving. Thought maybe I was just tired. At the next stop, corner of Ashland and 9th, I noticed something was off. There were no passengers waiting, none, not a single soul. Usually there's at least someone standing there with their phone in their face. Not tonight. I opened the doors anyway, just in case. A hydraulic hiss echoed down the empty street like a warning. No one got on, but someone or something was watching. From the alley beside the corner store, I caught a glimpse of movement. A figure, standing too still, wearing what looked like a torn-up hoodie, face pale under the flickering streetlight. I squinted. That's when the streetlight went out. Pop, just like that. In total darkness, the figure didn't move. It just stood there, half-shadowed, like it was waiting. I didn't stick around to find out why, closed the doors and kept going. The city felt hollow. You know how sometimes in dreams, you find yourself in familiar places but everything feels wrong? That's what it felt like. Buildings were there, lights were on, but no life, no cars, no people, no barking dogs or echoing sirens, just empty windows and dark storefronts, as if the city had taken a deep breath and never let it out. I tried the radio again. Dispatch, this is bus 917. You there? Nothing. Dave, come on, little help here. Just static. I rounded the corner onto Burnside Avenue heading downtown, and that's when I saw the first one. Not the one from the alley, this one was standing in the middle of the road. At first, I thought it was a jaywalker. I hit the brakes, hard, and the bus groaned as it came to a stop about 30 feet from the figure. Headlights lit him up like a stage. He was swaying. That's what got me. The sway, like his legs had forgotten how to stand still. His arms hung limp. Head tilted slightly to the side. Blood, or something dark like it, ran down from his mouth, soaking into a torn suit jacket. I thought maybe he'd been mugged or hit by a car. I opened the door. Hey, you all right? He didn't answer. just took a step forward. Another, and then another, faster. I shouted again, "Sir, you okay?" That's when he ran. No build-up, just a sudden, dead sprint full force straight at the front of the bus. I hit the horn, blared it. Didn't stop him. Didn't slow him. He hit the windshield like a bird hitting glass thud, and then slumped off the front, disappearing from view. I jumped from my seat, heart in my throat, flung the door open and ran down the steps to check on him. My mind was racing. What just happened? Was he alive? I peeked around the front of the bus, and he was gone. Gone. No blood, no body. Just a faint smudge on the windshield where his face had hit, like a wet print left by something not quite human. That was the moment I knew. Something was wrong. Deeply, horribly wrong. I got back on the bus and locked the doors. Kept driving. Didn't even check the schedule. Didn't matter anymore. I just wanted to stay in motion. Stay away from whatever that was. But motion didn't help. It only brought me deeper in. Every stop after that got stranger. Passengers with hollow eyes. People limping from the shadows, trying to flag me down. Some clawing at the doors. Some dragging themselves across the pavement like their legs had snapped in two and they just didn't care. I stopped opening the doors around 8 p.m. That's when I realized they weren't trying to ride, they were trying to get in. And once, I swear one of them smiled at me, not a warm smile, not a thank you for stopping smile. A broken, wide, too many teeth smile. A smile that said, "We see you." It's a strange kind of fear, being trapped inside something that's supposed to keep you safe. The bus had always been my second home. I knew its every rattle, every draft, every trick to keep it running smooth, but by 8:20 p.m., it felt like a coffin on wheels. The streets were getting worse. Garbage bins knocked over, abandoned cars with doors wide open, lights flickering in apartment windows, but no silhouettes behind the curtains. Just stillness. And then movement. Always just barely out of sight. A figure crossing the street when I wasn't looking. Shadows slipping between buildings. That same sway in their walk. That same slow, dragging limp. I kept the headlights on high beam, even though it made it harder to see past the glare. I didn't care. I wanted them to know I was coming. I wanted distance. Time to react if one of them stepped out again. At 8:34 p.m., I made a decision I never thought I would. I went off route. Route 13 was a fixed line, but I'd memorized every detour we'd ever used for construction or weather. I turned onto Harris Lane, figuring I could loop around and head back toward the depot, maybe find anyone who knew what was going on. The moment I turned, the GPS went black, just blinked out, screen dead. Then the engine sputtered. Just for a second, but it was enough to spike my blood pressure. I gave the dash a firm smack, muttered under my breath, and the sound leveled out again. For now. Harris Lane was tight, narrow, trees lining both sides, their branches clawing at the roof as I passed. It felt like driving through a tunnel filled with the kind of silence that pushes into your ears, making your own breath sound too loud. I slowed at the next intersection. A small group stood in the middle of the street. 5 of them, all facing away, all frozen like statues. I hovered my foot over the brake. None of them turned, none of them moved. I don't know what possessed me, but I tapped the horn, just once. A little chirp. They didn't flinch. They didn't need to, because I heard it right behind me. A thud on the back door, followed by another and another, fast, frantic. I looked in the mirror and saw a hand slap the glass, then a face, pale, sunken. Its eyes were white, not rolled back, just Blank, like someone had erased the pupils with chalk. I slammed the accelerator. The bus jerked forward, tires screeching, and the thing behind me slid off the back like it had been glued there. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see what it did next. I kept driving until the trees thinned out and the city lights returned, but the city didn't come with them. Still no cars. Still no people. I passed the corner store I always stopped at for snacks. Its windows were shattered. The sign above the door was hanging by a single wire, swinging slowly. I could see spilled snacks inside, scattered across the floor. A slushy machine still whirring. Red and blue syrup dripping from the nozzles like something that wasn't cherry or blueberry. I didn't stop. Couldn't. Because I saw the clerk. He was crawling out from behind the counter. Or what used to be him. One leg dragging behind. Neck bent at an angle that should have meant he couldn't be moving at all. But he was. Toward the door, toward me. I turned onto 52nd Street and kept going. That's when the messages started. At first, it was just a faint flicker on the overhead display, the one that shows the next stop. Next stop, and then a glitch. Then it lit up again. They see you. I blinked, stared at it, thought maybe I was losing it. Maybe I was hallucinating from the stress. It changed again. Keep driving. I slammed the brakes and stared at the display. It shouldn't have been working. I hadn't programmed anything into it. It runs off GPS, which was fried. And yet there it was, still flickering, still updating on its own. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the bus lights dimmed. Not out, just low enough to cast the cabin in shadows. I looked behind me. And that's when I saw her. Sitting in the 4th row, left side, where no one had been seconds earlier. A little girl, maybe 7, maybe 8, wearing a school uniform, her hair in pigtails. She looked normal. No blood, no wounds, just wrong. Because she wasn't looking at me, she was looking through me, like I wasn't there at all. "Are you lost?" I asked. She didn't answer, just blinked, slowly. Then, in the faintest whisper, she said, "You're not supposed to be here," and vanished. Not ran, not walked, just gone. One blink, and the seat was empty again. I felt the temperature drop like someone had opened a freezer. My breath fogged the glass. I hadn't noticed before, but the windows had frosted over. In April, I started driving again, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, didn't care where I was going, just away. The display blinked again. Wrong turn. I hit a pothole, hard, the bus jolted, and I heard something clang loose underneath. "Come on, baby, hold together," I muttered. And that's when the engine cut out. Dead. No warning, just silence. I coasted to a stop in the middle of a 4-way intersection, surrounded by buildings with windows like eyes. Watching. Waiting. I turned the key. Nothing. Tried again. Click. Click. Nothing. Then, from behind the buildings, I heard it. A sound I'll never forget. A chorus of clicking, not like metal, not like keys or coins. It sounded like bones. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Getting closer. I locked the doors, flipped every switch, checked every mirror. But the fog was rising. Thick, fast. It crawled over the pavement and licked at the sides of the bus, coated the windows, blinded me. The display flickered one last time. Too late, and the radio came back. Not static this time. Breathing. Close. And a voice I'll never forget. Not from dispatch. Not human. "You're one of us now." The fog didn't just surround the bus. It crawled into it. It pressed against the doors, seeping through the seams like smoke. It poured in from the ventilation, spilling across the floor in tendrils. Not natural, not weather. It moved with intention. And in that whiteout, my reflection vanished from the windshield. My hands on the wheel, still there. My face in the glass, gone. The engine was still dead, no power, no lights, just me, stuck in a steel box, mid-intersection. Wrapped in fog so thick it might as well have been cement. Every instinct in me screamed to run. But where would I even go? I was safer in the bus. Right? I kept telling myself that, over and over, until the doors hissed open. On their own, I didn't touch anything, no buttons, no overrides. The doors just opened. And 5 people stepped on board. Only they weren't people. They looked like people at first. Suits, work boots, one in hospital scrubs, but their skin had a waxy sheen, like candle figures left in the sun. Their eyes were hollow, not missing, not black, just empty. They moved slowly, like their joints didn't fit right. And they didn't pay me any attention. They just took their seats. Like it was any normal night, like they were catching the late ride home after a long shift. One of them even held a briefcase, though I swear his fingers were too long to grip it properly. I should have run. I should have done anything, but I was frozen. The doors closed behind them. Hissed shut. The fog stayed outside. And the bus came back to life. Lights on. Engine humming. Dashboard glowing like nothing ever happened. The display lit up. Next stop, end of the line. I didn't press anything. I didn't turn the key. It just started. And the bus rolled forward. On its own. I wasn't driving anymore. The wheel turned by itself. Gently, like invisible hands were guiding it. The brake lifted, the gas pressed down. I was still holding on, but I wasn't in control. I was just there. A passenger with a front row seat to something impossible. The street outside had changed. It wasn't my city anymore, not the one I knew. The buildings were twisted, taller, narrower, windows glowing faint red behind curtains that fluttered without wind. The street lamps pulsed, like they were breathing, and the road ahead was lined with figures, dozens of them, all standing still, all facing the bus. They didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. Every time the headlights passed over one, they disappeared. Not walked away, not ducked, just blinked out of existence, like turning off a light switch. And in the back of the bus, something whispered. I turned. Rows and rows of seats. All full now. Packed. More than should have fit. The aisle was lined with standing passengers, shoulder to shoulder. No one made a sound. No one breathed. And all of them were watching me. Eyes forward, heads turning in perfect unison as I looked back. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, and they smiled. Wide, crooked, like puppets forced to mimic emotion they didn't understand. Some of them had too many teeth, some not enough. One had no mouth at all, just stretched skin where lips should be. The little girl from earlier was among them now, still in pigtails, still in that school uniform. She was the only one who blinked. And in a voice too clear for the silence, she said, "You're not driving, but you're not done." I gripped the wheel harder, trying to take control. I turned it left. The bus went right. I slammed the brake. It accelerated. I looked at the dashboard. Every gauge was spinning. The speedometer ticked past 60, then 70, then redlined into numbers this model wasn't even built to reach. And outside, things got worse. The city was melting. Lampposts bent downward like weeping willows. Billboards twisted into spirals. A dog ran past with no legs, just dragging itself on the pavement with a smile so wide it split its face. Storefronts blinked, not their lights, the buildings themselves, like eyes. And the road ahead cracked open. A sinkhole, a massive one, black, bottomless, a void stretching across the next block. We were headed straight into it. I braced for impact, but we never fell. The bus dipped and kept going, into the hole, into the dark. The outside world disappeared, no road, no lights, just darkness through the windows. And in that dark, the passengers began to change. One by one, they shifted. Skin peeling back, eyes glowing faint red, fingers stretching into claws. Some turned their heads completely around without moving their bodies. One reached up and pulled off their own face, revealing nothing, just darkness. A mouth-shaped void that opened wider and wider until it swallowed the seat in front of it. And yet, they stayed seated, obedient, calm, as if this was the routine. I looked forward, and for the first time, saw something through the windshield. A station, down in the dark. A glowing platform with a crooked metal sign. Last stop. The bus slowed. Doors hissed open. The passengers stood and filed out, one by one, in total silence. No pushing, no shoving, like school kids trained too well. I didn't move. I couldn't. Until the last one paused at the front. A man in a driver's uniform, just like mine. Same patch, same cap, same face, my face, but twisted, pale, hollow-eyed. He looked at me and smiled, then whispered, 12 hours left, and stepped off the bus. The doors closed. The fog returned. The display flashed again, returning to depot, and the bus began to rise. I don't remember the bus climbing out of that dark place. I don't remember the transition between the station with the glowing last stop sign and the world I'd left behind. All I remember is blinking, and the city was back. Mostly. The streets looked the same. Same cracks in the pavement, same graffiti on the corners, same billboard with the soda ad half-ripped and waving in the breeze. But something was off. Too still, too clean. No birds, no cars, no sound. And then I saw it, the sky. It was the wrong color. Not pink from sunrise, not blue from daylight. It was something in between. A kind of gray that felt artificial, like a painting hung under the wrong light. The clouds didn't move. The wind didn't blow. The world had been reset, but not restored. The bus rolled to a stop at the first intersection. The dashboard lights flickered once. Then the display above me blinked. New route loaded. I didn't enter anything. I didn't need to. I wasn't the driver anymore. I was the vehicle. And something else was behind the wheel. I opened the doors. Not because I wanted to, but because the bus wanted to. No one was there. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, uneven. Coming from around the corner. One at a time they appeared. A man in a blood-stained apron. A teenager with half a face. A child dragging a teddy bear soaked in something dark. And behind them, a crowd, dozens, maybe more. All walking toward me. All silent. All smiling. They weren't people anymore. Maybe they never were. They stepped onto the bus. No words, no tickets, no glances in my direction. They just took their seats. Like they'd done this before. Like this was routine. And maybe it was. Maybe this bus had been running longer than anyone realized. Maybe I was just the latest to sit in the seat that didn't let you leave. More and more boarded. The bus grew full, but they kept coming. standing shoulder to shoulder in the aisle, pressed against the glass, faces inches from mine, watching, waiting. I looked ahead. The street bent to the left, back toward the depot, but the wheel turned right, and we took a different road, one that didn't exist before, a street with no name, no lights, no end. The sky above it was darker, the buildings leaning inward like they wanted to whisper secrets. The further we drove, the less the world looked like mine, until it didn't look like a world at all. Just shapes, shadows, things moving in the distance, things that shouldn't be seen. The passengers began to hum, low at first, barely audible, then louder, not a tune, not a song, a signal, calling something, or answering it. I looked in the mirror and my reflection was gone again, replaced by that same face from earlier, my own, but changed, paler, grinning, dead behind the eyes, and yet still driving, still smiling, still obeying. The radio buzzed. Route 13, cycle complete, ready for reset. No one replied, not with words, just the hum, louder now. The fog began to return, wrapping the bus in white. Outside the windows, the shapes leaned closer, pressing against the glass. The bus didn't stop, didn't slow down, it just kept going. Into the fog, into the unknown, into the next ride. And I understood. This wasn't a shift. This wasn't a job. It was a loop. And I was stuck inside it. Driving through an endless map built from nightmares and memories, picking up passengers who'd already been claimed by something older than time. So, if you see my bus, don't wave it down. Don't try to get on, even if it stops for you. Even if the display flashes your name, or because this isn't public transit anymore. This is something else. And once you're on board, you never get off. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.